doing tonight? I cannot believe that all these people came out to listen to me talk. That's not true. It feels really weird being on stage. So I'm Subcool. I'm the author of the book of Dank, and I've written a lot about cannabis, but I've been teaching people to grow marijuana online for about 15 years now. What I'm going to do over the next few days is try to impart the knowledge that I have in my head to you guys. I hope it will be a lot of question and answer. I don't necessarily have a set script for this, but I'm going to teach you what I've been teaching for 15 years, so hopefully it will be pretty simple. I urge you to remember good questions and ask them and good questions, because I'm depending on you guys to ask questions to keep me on track. Okay?
I turned it off so everybody can see the gloriousness of your incredible talent.
Okay, so what is Dank? Dank is really just cannabis that's grown to perfection. Behind me you can see different examples of cannabis that I have grown across over the years. A gentleman earlier was asking me what he could do to his plant to improve upon its structure. I'm going to be showing you a very specific way starting tomorrow morning. We're going to start with super soil, first thing. So at around 10 o'clock tomorrow morning we're going to start. Stephanie, do we have the menu? Do we have super soil?
We have super soil.
We haven't printed out any? Do we print the super soil out?
No, but we will by tomorrow morning for class.
Okay, so for class, you guys will actually get a copy of super soil, and this will start first thing tomorrow morning. Tonight, we're just going to talk about different things about cannabis and breeding. And if you'll bring up some of the next slide, and we'll look at the black cherry soda. Black cherry soda is a strain that my partner found this year. The reason I brought it up first was to talk about looks of cannabis. So everybody's really intrigued with purple cannabis, but it's kind of funny that cannabis actually is purple underneath the chlorophyll. So I think it's really funny that everybody strives for purple cannabis because it's a rare color in nature. But it's actually really easy to achieve in nature with organics. So this plant naturally turns this color pink. And you can't see the pink. It actually made every one of you guys some pink tincture over the last 2 months. So we took some of the black cherry soda bud and we soaked it in some glycerin for 2 months. And it's pink. It's the coolest thing you ever saw in your life. So this plant was grown in super soil, and the methods that I'm going to teach you guys tomorrow, which is really simply, we're going to spend a lot of attention on our grow space. Growing indoors means you have to mimic outdoors. And if you don't do a good job, and when it's really hot outside, it gets really hot in your grow room, you're going to have problems. If you don't do a good job with your insulation and your heating, if it gets cold outside and it gets cold in your grow room, you're going to have problems. So in order to grow a pot like this, we basically have to be God of our environment. So we're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow talking about that. This black cherry soda is a plant that Dioxide originally brought to me, and it just looked like another purple bud. The reason we started working with it is the taste was so unique. How many people have tasted plushberry? Wow. Do y'all think it tastes unique? Is it unusual? In y'all's garden, does it taste unusual?
It tastes delicious.
It tastes delicious, but it's very unusual, you know? It's like when you line up 20 strings, when you have a jar of plushberry, you're like, wow, this tastes completely different. So that's why we started working with the plushberry. That's going to mess me up just a little bit. Just so this plant was budded for 60 days in the super soil under high pressure sodium lights. And I know you guys are going to ask me a lot of questions this weekend about LED lights and compact fluorescent lights, and there's nothing wrong with those things. But I believe that you have to have really bright lights in order to grow really big buds. You have to have really big root balls, and that's how you establish big root bases and stem bases that are about the size of your thumb, and that's how we get this big bud. This plant yielded about 6 ounces.
What size pot?
Go ahead.
6 ounces in what size pot?
I run a 7-gallon pot. I actually brought some, and I'll have them here tomorrow so you guys can look at them. We're going to talk about air pockets and certain stuff like that. Stephanie, move through kind of slowly until we get to this plant of veg, which is in purple. Yeah, that's gonna drive me crazy. There, I like this much better.
So keep going?
Yeah, keep going. There we go, right here. So this is what I was talking about by genetic purpling versus climate purpling. Everybody's seen the plant. In fact, this gentleman in the back brought a plant in and it has a beautiful purple coloring in it. And he took it long
I'll
enough
pass
to
it
let
around.
He let the organics fade, and so it got a nice color on it. This is very different than turning your plant purple by temperature or nutrients. This plant actually turns purple, and actually the K-lactose turns purple, which I find is unique. So as you can see, we got a little bit closer here. Awesome, that was perfect, Stephanie. So you can see inside the K-lax is actually purple here. That's pretty cool. Now the only thing this plant was fed was super soil. How many people in this room are already growing in super soil? Oh, that's you cheat. You are growing in super soil? How long have you been growing in super soil?
This is like my second run now.
So you're getting good results?
Yeah, pretty good.
Okay. You have questions about it?
Um,
Not right now. I mean, it's just do you have questions about it? It's working good enough for you that you're confident with it?
yeah.
Now this cover right here, this picture right here is really neat. It's on the cover of Skunk magazine right now. Now I want to talk about this for 1 second and we'll just deviate a little bit. I love to read cannabis magazines, but the quality of cannabis magazines has really gone downhill. And I used to not like this magazine because they had a lot of fake bud and a lot of porn, and a lot of crap that really doesn't have anything to do with cannabis. This issue right here not only has a really great article about autism, actually what we're here tonight to raise money for, but it also has incredible information about CBD strains. It's a magazine that's packed full of good information. So if you haven't seen the skunk lately, go out and grab it. This one in particular has an article about me called Subcool Reader Diaries, and it's basically the story of how we created PGA Genetics. And we'll be talking about that some more tomorrow. Next slide, Stephanie. So this plant right here is actually seeded. And this is black cherry soda that was seeded with Space Clean in order to make plush berry. The reason we use Space Clean is because I know what it does. I like the joke that you could cross Space Clean with a turnip and it would make really good turnip greens. So, it's just a really dank plant, and it's like the measure. We know if we cross Space Clean to the plant and the progeny suck or they have weird mutations like, I don't know how many people know about black dahlia. Black dahlia, we tried it and it didn't work, so we threw it away. But anyway, we used the Space Clean as baseline. So the very first thing we did with this strain was create a new strain. Next slide. One more time, Stephanie. This is plushberry. So we took the plushberry and we crossed with Space Clean and we created this strain right here. Plushberry has a little bit of variation in it. You get Space Clean dominant variation, or you get a black cherry soda dominant variation. Everybody was going to choose the black cherry soda dominant variation every time because of the color it has. It's just beautiful marijuana. But actually the Space Clean variant actually tastes better to me and is more potent. It was tested at 16.5% THC. And the CBD on it was like 0.69. So it's actually the strain that we prefer more. So you can see the plant is absolutely beautiful. This actually almost looks like it's been, like it has a purple light shining on it or something like that, but it doesn't. It just has a compact fluorescent light shining over the top of it. And those hues are the hues that my camera picked up when the shutter went on. I mean, everybody agrees it's a beautiful plant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Getting in close, the thing makes really nice bubble and it actually turns pink. So I haven't had a chance to make extract from this. We won't talk a lot about extracts because I'm not a big proponent of them. But I am curious as to if it turns pink or not because the tincture turns pink and the hash is pink. So it would be pretty cool to see some pink wax. Now we're going to talk about a strain that I'm sure a lot of you have grown. It's the Bubba Kush, the 398. Thank you, sir, outside. He came and got this strain. We've smoked like 15 different Kushes over the last 2 years. Because you can bet the question I get asked the most as a breeder is, when am I going to breed cushions? And I just don't like the flavor of cushions. That's why we never bred them. This one tastes pretty freaking good. I've got some before you guys go. I hope you'll try a little bit. This one's 67 days. And if your Bubba's not looking like this and turning purple, then you're not growing it correctly. And I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I've seen about 15 samples of Bubba Kush in the last 6 months, and they're all green. So you're giving them too much nutrients. And we'll talk about how to prevent that. You're not necessarily growing the bud wrong, but if it's not turning this color right here, then you're feeding it too much. Agreed?
Oh, yeah.
Next slide, Stephanie. Again, this is just the Bubba Kush pre-98. You're going to see some incredible macro shots coming up here. I grew it, the second time I grew it to 70 days. And it's just, I mean, what an amazing looking plant with red hairs and the purple. And this is the same Bubba Kush that you see in all the magazines, and it didn't turn this color. So they either harvested it too early, or they were feeding it too much nitrogen throughout the whole time. I want to talk about this right here. It came out pretty good, Stephanie. We were talking how good it was going to come out, and I'm pretty impressed. When I talk about Pepsi colored trichomes tomorrow, and I talk about time to harvest, this is what I talk about when I talk about the color of Pepsi Cola. So this actual one section of this plant probably went just a little too long, but it wasn't indicative of the whole plant. I rarely see plants that are taking this long, but when you look at them through a 105 macro lens, you can see it. So did everybody agree this plant was ready to harvest?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did. Next slide. One more? Yeah, I want to show you guys this shot. So yeah, that's pretty cool, right? Now, for just a second, we're going to talk about bubble hash. I know a lot of people in this room came here to hear me talk about the bubble hash. I was really unimpressed with the type of bubble hash that Bubba Kush 398 made. It really puts you to sleep. It's got a really good narcotic effect. It was really dark because when you take a strain 70 days, we talk about the trichome heads, they're getting really dark. So as you're harvesting those heads to make hash, you're getting a really dark form of hash, where I prefer a light form of hash. But this is actually a strain where you can make what you call your classic black hash, which somebody gave me a big hump. He gave me a big hump up tonight. Thank you very much. So this is a really good strain to make that type of hash, but it doesn't make full metal clear dome that I can tell. So now we're going to talk about Space Bomb. Space Bomb is one of my favorite it's kind of a hot story to talk about. When I first grew this plant out, we call it Tiny Bomb. How many have read about Tiny Bomb, heard about Tiny Bomb? The reason we call it Tiny Bomb is because I pulled the trigger too early on it, and it was only giving me 3 or 4 ounces, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Best hash in the world comes from this plant, and not only do I think so, but some professional hash makers seem to think the same thing. But I was really disappointed that the plant was so small. What I learned in this particular strain right here is that you have to veg it out into a really good-sized bush in order to get the yields. My record is like a 7. Dioxide record is like a 9. He has a friend that got 11 ounces off the same cutting that I got 3 ounces off the first time. So the story behind that is you have to learn your genetics. You know, if you just grew this strain out and grew it out, you say, well, how did that do? Well, it was really good bud, but I got like 3 ounces and I called it. Boy, wouldn't that be a horrible fucking story? You know, but we didn't call it. Actually, we did. We got rid of it because, you know, we were like, whatever. We had this huge Space Queen and we had these 2 little ones. And I had given a cut to a guy that worked with TGA at the time who had a lot of bugs. And as we started smoking on it, we were like, we got to get that cutting back right away. So we went and got it, bugs and all, got rid of the bugs and brought it on. And after about 2 years of distributing Space Jill, which is a Space Queen hybrid, everybody kept asking me to make Space Bomb. So I actually succumbed to the internet pressure. Hi guys. It's okay. If they can put up with me saying I can put up with them. So next slide. So this strain is available genetically now, something I'm really proud of. Because what I wanted to give to you guys, I can't give you guys all the cutting in the strain, but if I can create seeds, then we can all have cuttings of it, right? And I think it's really cool that almost every grower that I know in my circles has a cutting of this strain right now. Again, it makes the best hash I've ever smoked in my life. Go back, can you go back? One more time. Uh-oh. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so this bud right here is really as big as my arm. And the reason we got it this big is because we vegged it out like 60 days. So I do not bud this plant unless the stem, the bottom of the stem is bigger than my thumb and the plant is about this high. Because if I do, literally if I pull the trigger here, it means the difference in 3 ounces. So learning your strain is really important. So I just wanted to point out how big this cola actually was compared to Tiny Bomb. You wouldn't call this tiny, would you? Okay, Stephanie. Now, if you can see in this picture here, see the Pepsi coloring? The reason I keep pointing this out is because I want to talk about everybody wants to know when to harvest a plant. You know, for the first 10 years, I thought you harvested a plant by the pistils. I mean, that's what I thought. And there are certain strains on there like Space Queen, the pistils all turn red. Every single pistil on the plant turns red before the trichomes start turning this color. And if you harvest a plant before it turns this color, you're missing out on the total cannabinoid profile. And that's why when we talk about strains, the strain that he talks about, we may be always talking about the same name strain, but as far as a medication, it could be grown very differently, and the THC profile could be completely different. If you look online at some of the strains we see tested, a lot of times, like Jack the Ripper varies from 17% THC to 25% total cannabinoids. And I don't think that's so much as a genetic shift as it is, how did they grow? Was the guy in a hurry to chop it down because he needed some medicine? You know, is he a lightweight and he harvested early? Is he like some friends of ours that takes Romulan 80 days? You know, a strain that you should take at 70. So that has a lot to do with the makeup of cannabinoids, and we'll talk about that a lot this weekend too. So this is Purple Urkel, and the reason I put this strain up here is to show you what it looks like in Super Soul, because I'm going to assume a lot of people in this room have grown Urkel. I kind of figured so. It was one of the first purple strains I got hold of when I came to the West Coast, was this Purple Urkel strain. And you can see organic and Super Soul, it turns this is this beautiful red color I was talking about. And again, this is a true color of cannabis. That's called auxin, that orange color, the chemical that creates it's called auxin. So I think it's one of the coolest looking buds there is with that purple background and those orange hairs. I can never get enough of it. Next slide. Cheesequake. Let's talk about cheesequake. The reason I put this strain up here is because there's something really strange about it. We had it tested, and Miss Jill was actually really upset when we had it tested. I think it only tested 11%. Now, if you've seen tests for TGA genetics, they test sometimes upwards in the 20% range. At the time, me and her were smoking the phenotype we call Shaggy, and it was some of the funnest cannabis we have ever smoked in my life. So a little story. She's in the kitchen by herself cooking dinner. I'm in the den, which is the next room over, and I can't see her. And I hear her laughing. She's in the kitchen giggling. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? She goes, because I'm fucking stoned. I keep forgetting what I'm doing. Okay, that's not indicative of something that tested 11%. So my rambling point about this is, just because you have a test that gives a number, it really doesn't tell the whole story. And that's when I really started to get into terpenes. And this strain actually tastes like great cheese Danish. It tastes like cheese. It tastes like grapes, and it tastes like cake or butter. These are the things I taste. And again, 11 is one of the lowest things we've ever had tested before, but the enjoyability of this strain was so high that we smoked it all up and really quickly. And so, I mean, seriously, we don't smoke. She smokes a lot more pot than me. I generally smoke hash. But this stuff tasted so good that we smoked basically about twice the amount of cannabis we normally smoke because it tasted so good. It's like, what do you want to try now? You want a Vortex? He says, no, I want cheesequake. So this is that strain. I actually saw somebody upstairs that had some cheesequake, I believe, or was that Dairy Queen? Cheesequake? I thought the stuff was phenomenal. The hash, tasted like a cross between, well, it's so stupid, between Space Queen and cheese. I mean, duh, that's what it is. But I mean, literally, that's what it tasted like. It tasted like some fake cherry candy mixed in with some funky brie cheese or something like that. And that's actually what it tasted like. Very good yielding strain, and it was, who cares about this, but it was strain of the year, so this was our 6th strain of the year. Isn't that amazing? So this was another phenotype. We talked a little bit about phenotyping. We'll spend a lot of time tomorrow when we do seed, sorry. We're going to talk about phenotype selection. It's one of the things I want to convey to you most. This was a different phenotype of it. It yielded about 2.5 more ounces. It had a more cheesy profile. It had less of the coracle going on. We liked it a lot, but it was almost just like smoking Exodus cheese. So it tasted a little bit better than the cheese, but it was really nice. But this is what we're talking about with phenotype difference. It's just a gorgeous plant. All right, Vortex. Vortex is one of my favorite plants to talk about because it is one of the best strains from seed I have ever grown in my life. I'm now growing it for the 5th time. My bean counter, who's the kid who counts our seeds and does general cannabis chores around the house, he's also my caregiver, but he doesn't smoke weed. How fucking funny is that? So anyway, it is funny. He's like, and he can't tell anybody he's Subcool's caregiver. So he's just like, people are around, I got some good bud. He's like, yeah, whatever. So how I created Vortex was really simple. Forget all the breeding books and all the crazy AABB and the Punnett squares and all that crazy stuff. I simply took the best pot that I had in my stable